The Apocryphon of Janus and Jambries. Janus and Jambries, the persons. The names traditionally assigned to the magicians who, according to Exodus 7, 11, 12, and 22, opposed Moses and Aaron before Pharaoh on the occasion of Israel's exodus from Egypt. Tradition characterizes them as willful and persistent opponents to God and Moses. 2 Timothy 3, 8, and 9. There was also a pseudepigraphic book entitled Janus and Jambries. The traditions. Though not named in the Old Testament and only once in the New Testament, the two brother magicians appear frequently in Jewish, Christian, and pagan sources, extant in Arabic, Aramaic, Greek, Hebrew, Latin, Old and Middle English, and Syriac. Hebrew and Aramaic literature gives the names as Uni, YWNY, and Mimr, MMR, as well as in more Hellenized guise with final Samak, Yanis, and Yimbris. In Greek sources, the usual forms are Yannis, and through analogical development, Jambres, though the former occasionally appears in its typologically earlier form, Ioannis. Syriac follows the Greek spelling. Latin tradition features Yamnes and Yannis, and rarely Johannes, but virtually uniformly gives the second name as Jambres, a form to be traced via the VL, apparently corrected to Jambres by Jerome in conformity with the Greek of 2 Timothy 3:8 to the early Jewish Church. That the first name is Semitic is no longer in doubt, but it is significant that Moses' chief opponent should have been assigned a popular Yahwistic name. The second name presents more of a problem. A derivation from the Hebrew root mrh or myrrh, be contentious, refractory, rebellious, has found widespread favor. An early reference to two brothers as opponents of Moses and Aaron occur in the Damascus Document, CD. For in earlier times Moses and Aaron arose with the help of the Prince of Lights, while Belial raised up Yana, and his brother. End quote. Though the Cairo-Geniza manuscripts of the CD, which are the Damascus Document, are medieval in date, the passage in question has also been identified among the finds in the Judean desert, but its date of composition is wrapped in the controversial literary history of the Damascus Document. Beginning with S. Sector's 1910 edition of the Damascus Document, Johanna and his brother have been equated without qualification with the Janus and Jambries of later literature. Such an interpretation is, however, open to serious doubt, since in the Damascus Document, as opponents of Moses and Aaron, they are portrayed as Israelite leaders of apostate Israel in Egypt. See the Damascus Document 3, 5-6, Ezekiel 20, 7 and 8, and 23, 3, Joshua 24, 14. Their role is typological for contemporary non-Essene Jewish leadership, reflecting, therefore, socio-religious conflict within Palestinian Jewry. A number of historical identifications have thus far been proposed. Subsequent tradition identified Johanna and his brother as Pharaoh's magicians, Exodus 7:11. By the 1st century CE, the pagan writer Pliny the Elder mentions Moses, Janus, and Lotapes, or Jambres, as magicians among the Jews many thousands of years after Zoroaster. And in similar vein, Lucius Apuleius, the 2nd century CE, includes Moses and Janus, in a list of renowned magicians. However, the most interesting reference in pagan authors is the note preserved in Eusebius's Preparatio Evangelica, from the Neoplatonist Numenius of Apamea, that Janus and Jambres were able to undo even the greatest of the disasters which Moses brought against Egypt, a claim which contradicts the biblical account of Exodus 8:18. A statement by Origen, that Numenius had recounted the story of Moses and the two magicians, suggests that Origen must have been acquainted with extensive traditions about the magicians, and may well have known the book entitled Janus and Jambries. Because of their mention in 2 Timothy 3, 8, and 9, Janus and Jambres frequently appear in later Christian sources, which merely echo the New Testament reference or give more details of their wicked behavior. The story was clearly well known since most references presuppose an acquaintance with it. Unfortunately, only snippets of the tale have survived. The two brothers are said to have been magicians at the court of Pharaoh Ahmoses, John of Nikiu, or Pharaoh Chencheres, who is the pharaoh that drowned with his army in the Arabian Gulf. But we know which one it was. Pharaoh's daughter reputedly entrusted Moses to Janus and Jambries for instruction and wisdom, e.g., Bar Hebraeus. They were regarded as gods by the Egyptians, Acts, and Satan counted them his brothers. Moreover, Abizethebu, the demon from the Red Sea, claimed to have come to their aid in the Testament of Solomon. It was they who were responsible for leading Pharaoh astray until the king and his host met their death in the sea. Moses, in the course of their altercations with him, afflicted their adherents with sores, and sent the mother of one of them to their death, Philostorgius. The two brothers tried to withstand God's mighty acts by means of fake magic. But when bested by Moses, they confessed in pain from their sores that God was active in Moses, Ambrosiaster. They practiced necromancy, and as a result of their wickedness they perished, Abdias. In spite of their having acknowledged the finger of God, they received no divine forgiveness. Their garden tomb, a monument to their former power and wealth, was visited by Macarius of Alexandria, who found it inhabited by 70 demons, Palladius. In Jewish literature of the Common Era, Janus and Jambries are especially prominent in legends connected with the birth and early years of Moses, but the time and circumstances of their demise vary in the sources. According to some traditions, they were assistants of Balaam, Israel's staunch opponent at the pharaonic court. Commonly, however, they are called Balaam's sons, a tradition which may be as old as the 3rd century CE. A dream of Pharaoh was interpreted by them to augur destruction for Egypt at the hands of an Israelite about to be born. At a royal banquet, when Moses was 2, he placed Pharaoh's crown on his own head. Balaam, who was in attendance with his sons, reminded the king of his earlier dream and counseled Moses' death. Pharaoh, however, heeded contrary advice and decided to put Moses to the test. When the child was directed to choose between a glowing ember and a gem, under angelic prompting he picked the former, stuck it in his mouth, and thus contracted his speech impediment. Exodus 4:10. Balaam and his sons fled to Ethiopia, where they usurped the throne during its king's absence. But when their city subsequently fell to a stratagem of Moses, who had succeeded the king of Ethiopia, they returned to Pharaoh's court. In due time, Moses and Aaron presented themselves at Pharaoh's palace, where they gained entrance by casting a spell on the 2 lions that barred their way. The king, frightened by their divine appearance, delayed answering until the following day their demand for the release of the Israelites. Meanwhile, he summoned Balaam and his 2 sons, who counseled him to put their authenticity to the test. Janus and Jambries cheated at magic by exchanging their staffs for snakes. Though they managed to check the majority of the angels, they could not prevail against the angel of the divine presence, who sided with Moses. Outdone by Moses, they came to him to become proselytes, and against God's explicit directive were accepted. Thus a mixed multitude, Exodus 12:38, with Janus and Jambries at the head, accompanied Israel out of Egypt. It was they who were the real culprits in Israel's idolatrous extravaganza at Sinai, and consequently were killed by the Levites. Alternatively, in Jewish tradition, Janus and Jambries, flying above the Red Sea on self-made wings, were destroyed by an angel dispatched by God. A minor tradition has them executed together with Balaam and the princes of Midian in accordance with Numbers 31:8. The book. The earliest reference to a book entitled Janus and Jambries is in the Latin translation of Origen's commentary on the Gospel of Matthew. This book was thought by Origen to have been the source for Paul, the presumed author of 2 Timothy. Later references are found in the Ambrosiaster, the Decretum Galatianum, and some Syriac and Middle English sources. Fragments of the book in Greek are extant in a Vienna papyrus from P. Chester Beatty in the 3rd and 4th century. A fragment of a translation into Latin has been preserved in a manuscript of the British Library. All texts are fragmentary, but they add a wealth of detail to our knowledge of the story. The remnants of the book commence with the magician's genealogy, and then move through various phases of Janus' opposition to Moses. Summoned to the palace, he matches Moses and Aaron's feats, but is laid low by disease. In the course of events, clear omens of impending doom are sent his way, yet his fight continues unabated. Ill and near death, he takes leave of mother and friends, and in Memphis entrusts his brother with the book of magic. After receiving news of the disaster at the Red Sea, Janus meets his own end. He is lamented by his mother, who subsequently dies a violent death and is buried by her surviving son near the tomb of Janus. Brought up from Hades by Jambres, the shade of Janus launches into a lengthy admission of wrongdoing. We do not know the response of Jambres in his final end. In at least its final literary form, the book quite clearly is a confession, hence underscoring the title given it in the Decretum Galatianum, the confession or penitence of Janus and Jambries. The essence of the tale is the magician's deliberate and determined opposition to Moses, God, in the face of repeated divine warnings. Their obdurate behavior precluded forgiveness forever. It is this aspect of the plot that suggests Janus and Jambries as the oldest precursor of the Faust legend. The end of Janus and Jambries was no doubt intended to serve as a warning to the believing community. Though the Janus and Jambries tradition probably arose on Palestinian soil and in a Semitic-speaking environment, there is no indication that the original language of the book was other than Greek. The date of origin of the tradition can hardly be much later than the 2nd century BCE, while the book was written probably at least as early as the 2nd century CE. The Apocryphon of Janus and Jambries, the magicians who, according to Exodus 7, 11, 12, and 22, opposed Moses and Aaron before Pharaoh on the occasion of Israel's exodus from Egypt. Tradition characterizes them as willful and persistent opponents to God and Moses. 2 Timothy 3, 8, and 9.